Broadcasting live in downtown Oakland.
I'm David Hollander, and you're listening to Protect Your Assets. Over the last 20 years, I've met many people dissatisfied with the lack of value and personal attention their financial advisor provides them. At Liberty Group, we personalize every aspect of our clients' retirement and financial plan with estate law, wealth management, and tax planning all under one roof. Call today to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Three rounds over and done. 6 total races so far in Season 4 of Real Racers Virtual Club, and we are ready to go racing at one of the oldest but now newly updated tracks on the iRacing service at virtual Lime Rock Park. We welcome you to RaceSpotTV and our coverage of Real Racers Virtual Club for the 4th round of this 6-round campaign. I'm your host, Joshua Lee, and alongside me in the booth tonight is Justin Prince with Hugo Louise down in the virtual production trailer. And Justin, you filled in for me last week here over at Interlagos. Now you're here with me again here at Lime Rock Park, and Interlagos saw some fireworks specifically at the end of race number 1, but coming into tonight, now we get a little bit of a better picture at our championship. Will Salisbury ups his win total to 3 on the season, and he's looking for more. He is not slowing down. Second fastest in practice tonight.
Yeah, it's been an incredible run to say the very least for him. Very consistent for the most part, but he had a lot of climbing to do the last time out, especially when it came to the first race with his contact going to the opening corners at Interlagos trying to battle for the race lead. He recovered from the podium, yes, and in turn, after the strong performance second race, he was still able to pick up some decent points. However, you look at the standings in themselves. Drivers such as Max Butler, Matthew Escajeda have been able to start separating themselves in general in the standings. You also throw Butler, the other Butler, Joseph Butler in there, along with Nicholas Leo, and things are looking pretty tight amongst that top 4. Salisbury with some of the ups and downs, dropping down to 5th by the end of the night, last time out.
And missing round number 2 at Brands Hatch, definitely not helping Will Salisbury when it comes to his points total. But you mentioned Max Butler, you mentioned Matthew Escajeda. Escajeda, one of the top 2 who have not won a race yet this season, but was the Season 2 champion. He knows how to get it done when it comes to Real Racers Virtual Club. We enter into the 4th round of the campaign. We have Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta on the horizon. Those are coming up in June after a week off next week. But here tonight at Lime Rock Park, I think, JP, a very underrated track in terms of the iRacing service, but also almost low-key difficult to get around. I feel like a lot of drivers underestimate it. It is used in the rookie series here on iRacing, but it's still very tricky to get around this course, especially that very sweeping and almost technical opening sector.
These lap times amongst the fastest you'll see among the campaign this season on the road courses in particular, because, well, it's 50 seconds a lap. Be precise around the marks here today. And it's so precise you need to hit these movements around the track. No name straight, well, it may not have a name. Always very difficult with some of the changes, especially with the uphill, having the chicane for the layout here today. And keep in mind that run through Big Bend all the way up to right-hander, plenty of drivers, if you time things up wrong for, say, a dive into turn 1, or miss a little bit of the apex into the left-hander, approaching through the S's, off to the right-hander in turn 4, lots of things could go wrong in the course of just a lap, let alone a course of a race, with how tough this track can be in terms of the speeds.
Mentioned those 50-second lap times. That is why tonight both of our races will be 17 laps, a little bit more than we're used to, but they're going to go by in a flash, as the fastest time currently set by the driver who won race number 1 at Interlagos 1 week ago, Max Butler in the 5 machine, and look who's right there, second place in the points as well, Matthew Escajeda, Joe Butler, Nicholas Leo, and currently Andrew Sauter, a new name to Real Racers Virtual Club, was in 5th. He'll go down to 6th as Zach Hudson in the 2 Machine across the line, goes P2 by just about 3/100th of a second off of Max Butler, who is currently at the top. Here comes Will Salisbury across the line. Can he get that pole position away? There's the start finish. Is it enough? And it looks like he goes south of 50 seconds and at a 49.942. A beautiful lap from the 7, and he is going to start from the pole of race number 1. A beautiful lap there from the 7 Machine, JP. And I think coming into race number 1, we've seen Will Salisbury start on the pole. We've seen him start from the very back of the field, and he just climbs his way right back to the front. He now is at least my favorite to win, but there goes Max Butler back to the top. They're trading positions and trading paint right now for the top spot.
I was about to say, for a lot of drivers, there's still at least a couple laps to work with. Drivers have up to 3 laps. But in particular, when it comes to Salisbury, when you give him clean space, he's able to run off and away to the races. The interesting mark will be, can he pick up the pace a little bit more? His second lap, looking like he's feeling confident here. 47.759, top of the board.
Another perfect lap from the 7. Big question is, can Max Butler now respond? He is on a flyer, but so is Zach Hudson as he works his way through the last couple of corners, goes down the hill under the Haggerty Bridge. There's the final corner, and Max Butler is going to pull it into the pit lane. He's not going to get another opportunity. Can Zach Hudson do anything about it at the top of the board? Across the line, 50.194. That will not beat his current fastest of a 49.903 and is going to keep him in that third spot with a 49.982. Excuse me, they're in that third spot. Matthew Escaleta, 50 seconds flat, sits 4th, and then the other Butler, Joe Butler, in 5th at a 50.221. JP, normally we see a bit more of a gradient when it comes to these lap times. Normally we're seeing the top guys kind of close together, maybe one driver being an outlier, but then we go down into 7th, 8th, and 9th, and we're seeing these times really fall off. We're all within 1 second here at Virtual Lime Rock Park. This is going to be an interesting race when it comes down to when we hit that green flag, because it looks like by these lap times and by the way this track races, it's going to be looking like they're in a bit more of a pack and not spreading out like they normally do.
Not necessarily spreading out, even though it's a bit of a hotter racetrack compared to Interlagos last time out. 92 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temperature, 68 air temp for reference sake. iRacing Day, May 15, 2022, with a little bit of wind to factor in. But the main thing is, there's not as many corners compared to, say, Brazil, when you think about it that way, because with Brazil, with Interlagos, a lot of corners with sweeping moments, as well as a lot of rhythm portions. Here, it's more so about speed. There are little portions where it's important to maintain that rhythm through the tight sections, but outside of that, the main focus, get yourself rolling through the track, get yourself quickly around the circuit.
And you mentioned getting quickly around this circuit, and I think specifically when it comes to the race, kind of making those hot laps is going to be crucial, because we've seen before in this series, these drivers get racing, they get aggressive, they don't want to give each other an inch, and that leads to contact and sending one driver off the road. And I think these drivers are starting to realize that they can race close together, but they need to know exactly when to back off. Do you think some of these drivers sort of racing their own race and not really racing each other is going to lead to a bit more of closer racing and maybe a little bit less incidents than we've seen this season?
Yes and no, because yes, I expect it to be a little bit more cleaner, but the tough thing is, the counter reason for that is, it's a tough place to pass at, because the main passing zone today will be that run through Big Bend towards turns 1 and 2. And as we've seen multiple times in many different types of races on the platform, especially in open wheel racing, someone tries to dive bomb to the right side of the corner, they miss the braking zone, both cars end up in the grass. That may be a danger spot and then some here today for all these drivers, both races.
Well, qualifying is just about to wrap up here in about 2.5 minutes, and we'll be getting started with race number 1. But we would like to thank all the sponsors that helped to put on each round of Real Racers Virtual Club live here on RaceSpotTV, and that starts with Liberty Group. At Liberty Group LLC, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always wanted. Our team of professionals can help you create a well-thought-out strategy using a variety of investments and insurance products and services to help you address your financial needs and concerns. We also would like to thank the Stephen Wilson Racing Academy. The Stephen Wilson Racing Academy exists to assist clients on their motorsport journey. SWRA utilizes 20 plus years in the sport with advanced coaching techniques, track and car knowledge, and widespread international industry connections to help clients progress to any level imaginable. Whether the client is new to driving on track or an experienced amateur racer, we help our clients develop driving skills that enable them to climb through the Ferrari Challenge ranks, win races in Ferrari Challenge, advance to competing in Pro-Am racing, and one day possibly iconic races such as the Daytona 24-hour or the Le Mans 24-hour. We also would like to thank Merit Partners. At Merit Partners, based in Atlanta, Georgia, we always strive to be a company that honors our employees and clients at the highest level as we build relationships around great experiences in the automotive space, focused on sports and exotic race and street cars. Merit Partners is your trusted advisor and source for curated cars. Come visit us to buy, sell, and build long-lasting relationships around the cars we love: Porsches, Ferraris, and supercars. We also would like to thank Coforce for their support of Real Racers Virtual Club.
Coforce is a digital media marketing agency specializing in the world of motorsports. Working in a variety of racing series in North America, Coforce offers a full range of services, from video production and targeted branding campaigns to event planning and special projects. For more information, visit www.coforce.com or find them at a race event near you.
Almost time to get started with race number 1 here tonight at Virtual Lime Rock Park. We'll run down your starting grid for this opening race of this 2-race event. Will Salisbury is going to start on the pole with a 49.759, faster by about 1.5 tenths over Max Butler in the number 5, who will start to his outside in P2. Zach Hudson will roll off from P3, another driver that was able to get under the 50-second margin in third. Matthew Escajeda just missing out by 1/1000th of a second. He had a 50 seconds flat to start there in P4. Joe Butler is going to start on the edge of the top 5 in the number 3, and with Nicholas Leo, fellow Indiana native, to his outside P6. 9 drivers look to take the green flag here in race number 1, and as they roll off from the front straightaway, Andrew Sauter is going to roll off in that 7th spot. Jackson Ball is going to roll off from 8th, and Adam Cosgrove is going to roll off in P number 9. All of those lap times from qualifying were well within 8 tenths of each other, JP, and as they roll off behind the official iRacing pace car, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this side by side and a lot closer racing than I think we've seen at Laguna Seca, at Brands Hatch, at Interlagos, where yes, we'd see pockets of maybe 2 or 3 cars, but with how close these lap times are and just how small and quick this racetrack is, I think we're going to see some very different racing than what we're used to seeing in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be much more tightly compacted, as you referred to, because of it being a quicker racetrack. Draft, I think, will be very prevalent down the front straight a little bit coming out of the downhill today. It will also be the type of racetrack, keep in mind, where as long as nobody makes too many major mistakes, it should stay relatively close over the course of the 17 laps in each of these races. Keep in mind, very pristine conditions here for tonight's action. Partly cloudy skies, almost 4:30 Incident Time, 89 degrees the track temperature. It's going down as the day progresses to evening in 7.
Perfect conditions for some great racing from the Virtual Lime Rock Park. 2 rounds remain after this one tonight, and we're glad that you're joining us for round number 4 of season 4 for Real Racers Virtual Club, live on RaceSpotTV. Pace car gets off into the safety of the pit lane, and Will Salisbury will lead us to the green flag, and we are underway from Virtual Lime Rock Park. And how about the move already trying to go to the inside for that lead was Zach Hudson. Joe Butler tried to get with him down on that inside line, and they're side by side for that race lead currently, but Max Butler gets pushed a little bit wide. He has to go off the racetrack now, trying to save it, gets it back on the tarmac, but falls to 3rd. Hudson to 2nd. Salisbury keeps his lead as they're side by side behind for P5.
And a mistake indeed from Butler, just trying to keep it along the edge of the rumble strips in the tight situation. Leo already shuffled from 6th to 9th. As a result of getting squished himself off the running line. More drivers trying to find it in the tight sections where you usually don't see side by side here.
That's the 4 of Andrew Sauter making his first career start here in Real Racers Virtual Club. Already feeling confident and comfortable behind the wheel of that number 4. He sits P7. You're on board with the driver that sits P8 currently. That's Jackson Ball trying to get a good slipstream on that number 8-4 machine in front of him. Adam Cosgrove now on the inside line in front of this now 2-wide battle as Sauter tries to go to the outside but loses a bit of momentum up there. Can't make that move work as they all will continue to fight for that 6th spot as you stay on board with Jackson Ball. Now looking off the back of Adam Cosgrove in the number 22. Another one of these drivers that's fairly new to Real Racers Virtual Club running here in P6 as they fall a little bit back from the edge of the top 5 as Joe Butler sits just about 2 seconds up the road.
And quick reminder, he did appear last week, Josh, but the main thing when it comes to Andrew Sauter was decent speed, not too much luck. He was involved in big incidents both races. Now he's trying to move himself up to 6th. This was right around where he's battling, and this is his luck again.
Contact with the 22 of Cosgrove sends him around. He makes only car-to-car contact and a little bit more again with the 22 of Adam Cosgrove. Doesn't make contact with a tire barrier, doesn't make contact with the wall. It looks like that car might be still good to continue racing, but down the straightaway, not sure what happened there. We'll wait for that replay to come in, but it looks like he's got more issues than it looks like we're seeing on the cosmetic side of things, and he is just, you can see that car skewed over the side. JP looks like some issue with the steering. Here's that replay. I'm not even sure how to call this. It looks like they just came together, wheels touched, and around they went.
Almost looked like a brain fade. Both of them mandatory damage repairs. Both of them absolutely destroyed from that. And it just simply is Cosgrove drifted a touch bit into the tires up into the 4, not in a straight line compared to Sauter. And that was exactly the luck that Sauter seemed to have in his first appearance, his last round. And now it's 3 races, first with your attendance as well. That has bad luck. Leo already has had to get repairs 2 from earlier incidents.
That leaves 6 drivers who have yet to come down into the pit lane. No mandatory pit stops or anything, so it's just if they need to come down, grab that fast repair, or tow it back to the pit lane, will they end up touching their pit boxes at all tonight. You're on board with Matthew Escaeda, who now sits just about a second back from Max Butler, excuse me, who sits in front of him. It's Zach Hudson, and Will Salisbury is off the track. Goes Butler. He goes way wide in that rainbow number 5, IR04. He'll get it back onto the gray stuff, but he loses another spot to his brother Joe Butler. And it's another one of these mistakes from Max Butler. He has 1 win on the season, and that came last week at Interlagos in the opening race of the night. And it's just typical JP. We see it a lot in this series, just simple mistakes. And in these IR04s, and at this track especially, small mistakes, you cannot make many of them because they will bite you, and that looks like that's just what happened with Max Butler. He gets a little bit too wide, he touches that grass, and like I mentioned, these cars just get sucked into it once you touch it.
And even more so, part of the reason he missed that corner so much apex off, way too much speed going to the corner in general, and it's a type of corner where you have to find that right balance where you're still maintaining a solid amount of speed to rotate the corner and make sure you aren't under attack by the time you get to turn 3. However, you take it too quick, you've seen the result. Even after the mistake, Butler nearly did the same thing we just seen a moment ago. And as a result of his mistake, back to 5th position here.
Max Butler, of course, with that one win at Interlagos last week. Of course, he also was able to walk away with a win at Phoenix in last season of Real Racers Virtual Club. So Butler knows how to get it done when it comes to getting on that podium, but he's going to have a little bit more work to do here in race number 1 tonight, as we have about 11 laps currently remaining. We're on lap number 7 of 17 with a 2.4 second lead over second place Zach Hudson. Will Salisbury continues to lead at the front of the field behind the wheel of the number 7, and everybody spacing their way out a little bit from there after a handful of incidents, after a handful of small mistakes made by other drivers. There's Adam Cosgrove, who currently sits in the pit lane in that number 22. He'll grab his damage repair. He's going to grab some fresh tires, and now 2 laps down. Not much he can do here in race number 1. Just going to try and salvage any points that he possibly can from that 9th spot. But once again, Will Salisbury says another new fastest lap, 49.643 that last time by, and the lap before that, he said another fastest lap of the race at a 49.752. So the 7 machine is cooking with gas up at the top of the leaderboard currently. Zach Hudson, Matthew Escada, and the 2 Butlers, Joe and Max, sit 4th and 5th. And now everybody with about 2 seconds separating between each other at this point, JP, with 10 to go. I gotta think these drivers are now trying to just play a little bit of damage repair. Even if they weren't caught up in an incident, they don't have any drivers around them. It's, do I catch up to the driver in front? Do I keep running my own race? How many points do I want to walk away with out of race number 1? And you gotta remember, we're gonna invert that top 5. Does Max Butler want to catch up to Joe Butler to end up starting outside of the front row? Does he want to keep the inverse pole position that he would have if he stayed in fifth? There's a lot for these drivers in this top 5 to think about, even if they're not currently in a side-by-side battle.
Yeah, there's a lot of different layers to think about. First, you have Salisbury, who's doing exactly what he did in race 2 at Interlagos last time out. When he got a good launch, kept himself out of trouble with some of the battles. He did the same pace pole way. Hudson doing the same things he was showcasing the last time out as well, keeping consistency. But in regards to the Butlers, you have to think about it this way. Yes, you get the start of the pole for race 2 if you stay there in terms of Max Butler's position. However, here's the tough part. Remember, he's in the midst of that championship fight. Do you want to end up losing ground to your competitors by having your points lost for the first race? Not really. In terms of that, we know how good Butler can handle things from the start we've seen in some of the rounds this season. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to claw into that 3 car. The tough thing is, he's got no draft. He's only running a 1/10 of a second quicker than the drivers in front of him right now. That's going to help a bit.
That definitely will help him a little bit. And that 3 machine, of course, we've seen Joe Butler really be consistent, and one of the most consistent drivers that we have in this series. Hasn't picked up, he picked up a win at Brands Hatch, but hasn't picked up many wins, I should say, that being his career first in this series when he got it in race number 1 in that event. But I think a driver that we're talked about a little bit at the top of the show, haven't really talked about since, and haven't talked about since the drop of the green flag of this opening race, is Matthew Escajeda, who sits in 3rd, because he is that second driver that is in the battle for this championship. Season 2 champion, has not picked up a win since then, picked up no wins in season 3, still is winless here in season 4, but is running so consistent in this season. He's here every week, picking up the points that Will Salisbury missed out on, the rounds that he missed, that other drivers are missing out on the rounds that they missed. So we're seeing all these points that are dropped get picked up by Escajeda, and even though he's not winning, sitting at the top of the podium, even if he's 3rd, 4th, 5th, he's picking up consistent points every time he hits the track, which, honestly, JP, if the drivers in front of him keep making mistakes, like we see the current points leader, Max Butler, sitting 2 points behind him in 5th, he is going to be in the catbird seat for this championship when we get to the final round at Road Atlanta.
Some of the World Championships in iRacing are a perfect example of that, where drivers haven't been able to break through for a feature win yet they're amongst the top contenders for the championship, for example. We've seen in several different cases this year. Escajeda is the example of that in this series, absolutely, because he's got experience. He's been able to get in a lot of knowledge when it comes to these cars. He's always been able to hit his mark strongly in these types of cars. He picked up a few victories last year amongst that championship campaign. It's not a shock, I think it's fair to say, to see him in the mix based on pure consistency, and it just goes to the matter of when does he break through, not if, with how things have gone for him this season.
Crossing over now to lap number 13, 5 laps to go here in race number 1. It looks like we might have a little bit of a brotherly battle on our hands as the 5 of Max Butler has caught to the back wing of his brother Joe Butler, who sits in 4th. Both of them running very similar lap times. Last time by fastest lap of the race, close to fastest lap of the race, excuse me, set by Max Butler. It was his personal best, is just a couple 100th of a second off of the current fastest time from Will Salisbury. It was a 49.662 last time by for Max Butler, and last time by for the 3 of Joe Butler of 50.384. You go up the road, Matthew Escajeda 50.6 last time by, 50.1 for Zach Hudson, and a 49.9 for Will Salisbury. Getting a little bit faster each and every lap is Max Butler, and it looks like an issue closer to the back of the field for the one machine of Jackson Ball, and that's contact in the tire barrier. Not a lot of contact, but a bent front wing JP that's going to send the one machine down into the pit lane for his one of his allocated fast repairs, as it doesn't look like he's going to take it just yet, but he will have to eventually with that damaged front wing.
Yeah, especially with the contact. Speaking of your contact, Butlers are both fighting. Joe on the defense, Max with a crossover.
He's going for that 4th spot, but brother Joe is not going to give him much of an advantage. To the outside goes Max Butler. It's a drag race down the front straightaway. Give the edge to the 5. Will it be the same as they go to the apex of 1? Inches separating, they make contact. The brothers come together in turn 1, and they both go off and into the grass. The 3 of Joe Butler will tow it to the pit lane. Max Butler continues in the 5. He sits in 4th, and unbelievable. We've seen it happen before, and it happens again. The brothers come together in turn number 1 as Nicholas Leo will go into 5th after Joe Butler goes into the pit lane. Here's the replay, JP, and it's what I talked about earlier. They don't want to leave anything on this racetrack, and they just get so close together, and the contact is made. And with these open wheel machines, you cannot bounce off of each other that many times before it leads to exactly that.
Yeah, see from above. Yeah, even if you think about the air factor, that was going to likely happen with the rear tires regardless in that situation. That's exactly what I hit upon at the start of the broadcast, where if you go too deep into the corner on the right side of the racetrack on the send, even by a little bit, you're both going in the grass. Guess what happened?
It almost looked like to me, JP, Max Butler came down like you normally would apex that corner, and just, I don't know if it's the aero of these cars. I don't know if it's just the way Joe Butler entered turn number 1, but it looked like that back end started to fishtail just the tiniest bit, and that led to the contact. So maybe a little bit of faults of both. We know that's going to be a conversation over the dinner table at the next family gathering, but white flag is out. Will Salisbury in the lead, north of 4.5 seconds, and 4.7 to be exact, and Salisbury's looking for win number 4 and his 2nd in a row in this campaign.
It's been absolute domination again for Salisbury. Once again, consistency is king. Within 3/10 of fall off, right from the lightning strike of the green flag, 3/10 quicker on his fastest lap. Only Butler's been in the ballpark. He's kept that consistency up all race long to be able to dominate this one.
It's hard to be more perfect than Will Salisbury was just in that race. Pole position and a win for the 7 of Will Salisbury. Win number 4 on the season. And now 2 in a row. He is looking to go into rarefied air as being only the 2nd driver to win more than 2 races in a row. Anders Krohn currently holds that record at 5. He's going to make it he's going to try and make it 3 in a row in race number 2. Can anybody catch up to him is the question. As everybody comes across the line, we wait on Leo, Ball, Sauter, and Butler and Cosgrove to finish their laps here on the track. As across the line and into the guardrail goes Adam Cosgrove. He'll finish going the wrong way. Well, at least it will still count as a finish, JP.
I mean, he took the checkered. I think that's all you can say, no matter the direction.
He still finished 4 laps down, but he still will finish that race nonetheless. But Will Salisbury finishes the best out of anybody across the line. He will take the win. Zach Hudson in second, Matthew Escajeda in third, Max Butler fourth, with Nicholas Leo rounding out that top 5. Nicholas Leo will be starting on the pole in race number 2 when we invert the top 5. Jackson Ball starts 6th with Andrew Sauter, Joe Butler, and Adam Cosgrove rounding out the 9 drivers that took the green flag in race number 1. We've still got one more race to go tonight, but before we get to that point, drivers are on track for warm-up, and we'd like to take one more opportunity to thank all the sponsors for Real Racers Virtual Club, starting with Liberty Group. At Liberty Group LLC, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always wanted. Our team of professionals can help you create a well-thought-out strategy using a variety of investments and insurance products and services to help you address your financial needs and concerns. We also like to thank the Stephen Wilson Racing Academy. The Stephen Wilson Racing Academy exists to assist clients on their motorsport journey. SWRA utilizes 20 plus years in the sport with advanced coaching techniques, track and car knowledge, and widespread international industry connections to help clients progress to any level imaginable. Whether the client is new to driving on track or an experienced amateur racer, we help our clients develop driving skills that enable them to climb through the Ferrari Challenge ranks, win races in Ferrari Challenge, advance to competing in Pro-Am racing, and one day possibly iconic races such as the Daytona 24-hour or the Le Mans 24-hour. We also like to thank our friends at Merit Partners. At Merit Partners, based in Atlanta, Georgia, we always strive to be a company that honors our employees and clients at the highest level as we build relationships around great experiences in the automotive space focused on sports and exotic race and street cars. Merit Partners is your trusted advisor and source for curated cars. Come visit us to buy, sell, and build long-lasting relationships around the cars we love: Porsches, Ferraris, and supercars. We'd also like to thank Coforce for their continued support of Real Racers Virtual Club.
Coforce is a digital media marketing agency specializing in the world of motorsports. Working in a variety of racing series in North America, Coforce offers a full range of services, from video production and targeted branding campaigns to event planning and special projects. For more information, visit www.coforce.com or find them at a race event near you.
Welcome back to beautiful virtual Lime Rock Park for round number 4 of season 4 for Real Racers Virtual Club. 2 minutes remain in warm-up. Race number 1 just concluding. Will Salisbury makes it 4 wins on the year. Can he make it 5 and 3 in a row? Joshua Lee back with you here in the booth. Alongside me is Justin Prince with Hugo Louise down in the virtual production trailer. Now under 2 minutes left here in warm-up. And JP, I think I was eating my words a little bit after race number 1. I said it was going to be a little bit closer than normal, but we saw the usual just small mistakes from these drivers. They're racing so close together in these cars, especially at this track, and that led to a bit more contact than I think we were expecting. So that really spread the field out, but once they got close together, we saw a little bit of a heated battle between the two Butler brothers that unfortunately ended in contact, but we saw them just sort of towards the end of the race start to close back in on one another. I think even though they spread out, we saw a bit of an interesting race in race number 1. And do you think it's going to carry over into race number 2?
I think so, because for a lot of the drivers now, it will be a very tough battle, because last time Salisbury was starting in the midst of the traffic, didn't have the great breakaway compared to the last time out. What we just seen, I should say, and it showcased by the time things captivated to contact from Senna as part of the technical issues he had that round, but partly because of the aggression at that point of the race. the drivers at that time, last time out, wanted those spots. Start with momentum from the get-go. But if your driver's like, say, the 3-car of Joe Butler, you're thinking, okay, I've got to bounce back. I can't afford more contact here. For some, absolutely, I think we see the same. For others, it's a matter of making sure to avoid when that same happens, to make sure they're the ones capitalizing on the spot by the end, like Nicholas Leo.
And of course, that's kind of the story of this season so far. When other drivers make mistakes, who's going to be there to pick up the pieces? So far, I can use the Butler brothers as great examples. Joe Butler picking up the pieces at the first opening race at Brands Hatch. Max Butler picking up the pieces and winning the opening race at Interlagos. Nikita Lasichkin also was able to grab a win this season, but every other race, both races at Laguna Seca, the second race at Interlagos, and so far, tonight's only race here at Lime Rock Park was won by Will Salisbury. He's unfortunately going to be starting in 5th after the top 5 invert, and that'll put Nicholas Leo to the top spot in the number 69. How long will he be able to hold on to that is the question. Max Butler will start in the exact same spot that he started for race number 1 in P2. Matthew Escajeda, also I believe exactly where he started for race number 1 as well, will start in 3rd. Zach Hudson will start 4th with Will Salisbury, your winner from race number 1. He'll have to fight through the 4 drivers in front of him if he wants another top spot on the podium after race number 2. Jackson Ball is going to start P6. Andrew Sauter, Joe Butler, and Adam Cosgrove are going to round out your 7th, 8th, and 9th positions on the grid, and all 9 drivers are now rolling off behind the official iRacing pace car. We'll rack them up for another 17-lap race in tonight's event, and Nicholas Leo starting on the pole. I think, JP, we've seen it before. We saw it with Will Salisbury, but I think starting on the pole gives them a little bit more of an advantage, but we know how aggressive these drivers can be, and they're going to want to try and get by that number 69 from the get-go and from the drop of the green flag. But Will Salisbury, even though he did have a much faster car, was able to pull away pretty quickly. I think we might see at least a couple of laps led at the outset from Nicholas Leo, with just the other drivers battling amongst themselves from second on back.
Yeah, especially since we've seen how tough the start was for Max Butler when he was on the outside coming out of turn 2, went across the rumble strips, trying to keep it side by side at the very edge of the corner exit, went off to the grass a couple times in the opening lap. I think that might be a risk this time as well when it comes to Butler. If he does get even the better run than Leo off this jump and through the corner. So you have to keep your eyes open for what's about to happen if you're one of the drivers here, because there's a chance a mistake or two is about to happen coming out of that corner exit for the left side.
Pace car pulls off into the safety of pit lane. Field in control of Nicholas Leo. How is race number 2 going to go from Lime Rock Park? We're green and underway, and already it's a battle for second as Max Butler takes 3 drivers down and into the grass, trying to protect his second place spot, trying to work his way along the outside. He gains 1 spot, goes for 2, and he's going to gain 2 off the opening corner. How about Will Salisbury, 5th to 3rd? He gets by both Escajeda and Hudson.
Just avoiding tire-to-tire contact with Escajeda as well to be able to stick it side by side by inches. What a good start for Salisbury. What a great launch in general for Leo. He caught everybody off guard, mixing it up, going at a different time, comparably seen at the launch, and caught everybody sleeping.
And going a little bit wide there was Zach Hudson. He made a touch to the grass, able to keep the car under him. He doesn't go for a spin. Now it's a 3-horse race at the front. To the outside goes Max Butler. Will Salisbury almost went with him. He chooses to stay in line with the 69 and Nicholas Leo. Is that going to prove the best? Now to the bottom side goes Max Butler as the quick switch back over to the left goes through. And to the lead goes Max Butler. He's able to get by Leo. Now a quick move to the outside for Will Salisbury, side by side just for a moment, down the back straightaway through this very tight chicane. How's this gonna work for Salisbury? He spins it. He gets a little bit too aggressive through the opening corner and spins the car around. From hero to zero, he's in P8 now.
Almost what we've seen a little bit from Interlagos there. The aggression levels high to get himself through the traffic. He was quick, absolutely. but it was difficult to get those moves set up at that point of the lap at the moment. Salisbury, a big mistake. That was moments after, mind you, scraping the paint off his right front wing, and now it really gets interesting for the battle for second.
Interesting indeed, as now here comes Matthew Escajeda into the picture. Look at Zach Hudson there. He's at the tail end of this now 3-car battle for second. And you can see Escajeda trying to find just any opening to try and get around. This is the tightest portion of Lime Rock Park, and he's going to have to sacrifice a little bit of time and a little bit of space as he'll stay in P3. Zach Hudson not looking to sacrifice nearly as much. He takes a look to the outside, tries to go for the cut back to the inside, and that's exactly what he is able to do. Can he make the move happen through the final corner? He will clear that Red Bull number 8 machine, and to third goes Zach Hudson. Now you can see a 5-car train starting to develop as Max Butler says thank you very much and goodbye, and a spin up in front. Nicholas Leo goes spinning.
And he goes bye-bye from the rest of the pack. A south spin, too much speed going through the corner, through Big Ben, loops it off the track. Exactly what we see from a couple drivers in race 1 already. He was a bit of the cork in the bottle. Here's the major thing. 10-second on backward gear, or we can crash.
And that is a 3-car pile up, the 3 involved of Joe Butler. It looks like Adam Crosgrove was also in it. Not sure who else got involved. It looks like the one of Jackson Ball was the 3rd machine involved there. Let's take a look at the first replay. The self-spin from Nicholas Leo. A quirk of these cars, these brand new iRacing Formula IRO4s, JP. Just not a lot of downforce. You got to be careful when you're on those brakes heading into the apex.
In particular, when it comes to what we just seen there, the trends when it comes to this car, very difficult. The second part of the incident, though, Josh, it was just simple. He contacted the rear tire, trying to get around the outside in a non-passing zone, and it goes to happen at a very bad spot. Cosgrove, both races, both with significant damage. Joe Butler, both races, both with significant damage, and a fast repair having to be used.
Not what Joe Butler needed or wanted in the battle for the championship. He exits the pit lane. He has not gone a lap down yet, but here comes his brother Max to put him 1 lap down from inside the pit lane. Now, this makes a very interesting battle for the race lead. 2.9 seconds is the current gap. Escajeda sees a big target on the back wing of Zach Hudson in front of him, and he's going to try and make it a good heads-up battle for second place. This is the interesting portion here, JP. Max Butler, who is in the lead, also leads the championship. Escajeda was able to gain back at least a handful of points from finishing 3rd in race number 1. If he gets that spot away from Zach Hudson, it's going to be just a little bit more damage control. He won't be losing as many points. He won't be gaining much back, but he won't be losing as much to Max Butler up in front, especially after him gaining those points in race number 1.
Exactly, is a decent bounce back. And you never know how the trends can go, because how the battle is fared out has almost fallen into Butler's lap right now. The tough thing is right now, for second on back, Butler's gotten much more cleaner air for the time being, a little bit more rhythm right now compared to even the battle for second. And at this point for Hudson and Escajeda, they have to be near perfect the rest of the way, closing at least 2/10 a lap, realistically speaking here, to be able to get back in drafting distance to make it a fight for the race lead with under 5 laps to go or so. Right now, they're doing a decent job to close back up to Butler, but it will take the rest of the race to make this a 3-car scrap, at least.
On board with Zach Hudson, who sits in second, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but I think at some point, Escajeda and Hudson are going to start to hear a certain familiar guitar riff in their ears that simplifies some sort of gigantic fish in water, because here comes Will Salisbury from 4th. He currently sits about 5.5 seconds behind this battle for second, and I think that's going to become much less very, very soon, unless Will Salisbury makes some sort of mistake. He's been the fastest driver all night long and just laid down another fastest lap of the race at a 49.558. That was 2 laps ago, and he was not that much slower last time by at a 49.6. This battle for second continues as they'll put another lap behind us, but in the lead is Max Butler, and he's looking for his 3rd win in the last 2 seasons, 2nd win of this season. He was able to get the opening race win at Interlagos in round number 3, and he'd be the only driver other than Will Salisbury this season to be a multi-time winner. Will Salisbury was 4. If Max Butler can get this win, he'll make that 1 win total into 2 and be, I believe, only the 4th driver in the last 2 seasons of the Real Racers Virtual Club to win multiple races. Nikita Lastishkin and Anders Krohn were the only 2 to do it in the last season of action, and Will Salisbury currently is the only person to do it this season.
Yeah, I think this is the type of race right now where Butler just has to make sure he just stays dialed in at this moment. You've got Hudson still 2.5 seconds back. He's only closed up maybe a 1/10.5, if that, with the past 3 laps. He's not gaining fully enough time to be able to close up quite yet, unless he really picks up the tempo or Butler starts to make mistakes. So at this point, if you're Butler, just hit your marks. Stay dialed in. Know that on top of things, Escajeda, if he closes back in another 1/2 second at least here and battles through the aero wash and riding tire to tire behind Hudson, could start to scrap it out at the end of the race per second if he gets impatient. It's the key thing, though. You cannot afford to lose focus on the eye of the prize. The checker flag with 7 to go this time.
On board with Escajeda in 3rd. He lost a bit of time to Zach Hudson. It makes it 1 second now between 3rd and 2nd place. And Will Salisbury currently is almost nowhere to be found. He'll gain another 2 seconds back as Escajeda gets very loose through turn number 1, but admittedly not gaining back as much time as I was originally expecting him to. He's down to 5 seconds, but with 8 laps to go here, 7 laps to go, excuse me, JP, he needs to gain back more than just 2/10 per lap. That gap is still 5 seconds to even get onto the podium. We've seen Will Salisbury make these amazing recovery drives. I remember back to Laguna Seca race number 2, and it was a full field invert. He was able to go from last place up to 1st and get the win. Not seeing that speed from him tonight here in race number 2.
And even last week, remember, he had to essentially come back from having a massive crash, having to make the full way around to get the damage repairs done, come into the pit lane, take the fast repair, still came away with the inversion pole inside the top 5, at the minimum, should say, by the end of that race. The tough thing is, this is not as easy in a track to do that because his strength are the rhythm portion of the track where it's hard braking zones, where you have to focus on where you hit those exact marks in the brakes, where your lines are in that mark. It's not exactly that type of racetrack where you're only hitting the brakes essentially for the braking six or so of the corners right here at this racetrack. It's not the track that matches his style.
5 laps to go. 5 laps for Max Butler to try and claim his 2nd win of the season. Gaining back just a little bit more time to Matthew Escajeda. In front is Will Salisbury. Gap now down to 4.2 seconds. Can Will Salisbury in 5 laps catch up to either get 3rd, 2nd, or possibly a race win? Only time is going to tell. Right now, not many close battles on this racetrack. Closest one is going to be about even between 1st and 2nd and 2nd and 3rd, both of them being about 2 seconds apiece. So really this main story that we're following is Will Salisbury in this attempt at a recovery drive. But I think we need to be focusing on the points right now, JP, because Max Butler in the lead is going to gain back, I believe, 2 points as they currently stand on your current second place driver, Matthew Escajeda, who's able to gain back, I believe, 4 points out of race number 1. So it'd only be 2 points gained back for Matthew Escajeda, which in the grand scheme of the championship with Watkins Glen and the final round at the virtual Road Atlanta to go is going to speak volumes in this championship fight for Max Butler.
I think it absolutely will if he holds on, because I don't think you can even give it to him quite yet. Because here's the thing, he's got traffic in front by about 10 car lengths. He's lost about 2/10 in the past 2 sectors. He's starting to fall off a little bit all of a sudden. He's starting to lose a bit of rhythm through the tight S sections in particular. Hudson is on it to make this a fight.
And he is trying to get his first ever race win of Real Racers Virtual Club. That's what Zach Hudson in second place is trying to race for. Lap traffic up ahead of Max Butler. How difficult is it going to be to get by? How is this going to change the grand scheme of this race? And I should mention that my math was just a touch off. It will be at only about 1 point separating the two from, or about 2 points, excuse me, separating the two from third down into fifth. 25 points for a race win, 22 for second place, and 20 for third. Then it goes down in 1 point increments from there. Third place earned him 20 points. Speaking of Matthew Escajeda, Max Butler earning 18 in race number 1. But this is where it becomes massive for Max Butler to try and get this win, because it'll be 25 points for Butler versus 20 for Escajeda, and that is going to gain him 3 points above Matthew Escajeda and just add 3 more points to that gap. White flag is this time by. The gap is 1.5 back to Zach Hudson, and at this point, it's just Max Butler trying to put a capitalization on the night and be only the second driver this season to win multiple races.
And the traffic moving to the side of the racetrack going to help him a little bit. White flag up in the air. Hudson is 1.4 seconds behind. This is not going to help Hudson more so, because he's reaching the traffic at the worst possible time. That may cost Hudson his only chance here for the lap.
1.4 seconds is the gap, goes a little bit under that, but does he have enough time and enough corners to try and go for this race win? Will Salisbury caught up fantastically. He sits 2 seconds back from Escajeda, but overall, it's not going to be enough. It won't be enough for Zach Hudson either, as he can only look up at the rainbow number 5 with the silver wing on the back of the IR04, and across the start finish line for his second win of the season. He gets it done again. Max Butler wins race number 2 from virtual Lime Rock Park. Hudson comes home second. Escajeda rounds out the podium, and Max Butler trying to stretch that points lead at the top of the board. It was 11 points separating himself and Matthew Escajeda. It went down to 9 points at the end of race number 1, and it's going to go back up to 14 after race number 2. Butler puts himself in a perfect spot heading into the last 2 rounds of this championship.
A strong run, taking advantage of a little bit of the trouble behind, but what a drive for Hudson to get that close by the finish. A couple more laps, we might have been talking about a drag race with how things were faring out with that close-up break for the 2.
What a way to finish it off, and Max Butler gets win number 2. Zach Hudson finishes in second. Escajeda, Salisbury, and Leo down from there. Sauter, Cosgrove, Butler, and Ball rounding out the 9 drivers that took the green flag tonight. And at the end of round number 4, just what a way to finish it off. Butler, not the favorite for that race. He was able to get that lead away from Nicholas Leo from the outset and just took it from there and won by 1.3 seconds over the 2 of Zach Hudson. So we begin our post-race show, and we start by speaking with Max Butler, your winner from race number 2, and we'll get with him in just a moment. Here he is now joining us in the broadcast booth. And Max, win number 2 for you. You got it done at Interlagos last week, and you get it done this week at Lime Rock Park. I know this one's got to feel good for you, because before coming into this season, you had only won on the Oval of Phoenix, and now 2 race wins, and you stretch your points lead once again.
Oh, it is so nice to start getting a few wins on the board. These guys are absolutely we're all pushing each other to the limit. You see Zach Hudson absolutely on me that entire race, so shout out to him. But yeah, it feels good to get another win.
And going into the last 2 rounds of this series, we go back to one of my favorite tracks for this series, and I'm sure it's shared by a lot of the drivers, Watkins Glen. And then we have Road Atlanta to round out the season coming up in the month of June. A lot of pressure is on you now. You have the Season 2 champion nipping at your heels, trying to get that points lead away. What's your strategy going into the last 2 rounds and the last 4 points paying races to make sure that you are sitting at the top of the podium on the points when it comes to the finale round?
No, I just got to keep my head on right. I think I start to crack and crumble once I make one mistake. I think you saw in the first race today, once one mistake happens, it all kind of tumbles down. So I need to keep my head on right and just remember that I have the pace. I just need to look forward and keep it going. So I also love Watkins Glen. That I'm very much looking forward to that track. I think it's going to be absolutely hectic considering how much draft there's about to be. And I think we're about to see some very exciting wheel-to-wheel action.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you're going to try and get it done. Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta coming up. Get some practice over the next off weekend, and we'll see you when we come back on June 7th.
You know it. Thanks, guys.
Great to hear from Max Butler, of course, winner of race number 2 tonight. Second place on the podium is Zach Hudson for race number 2. JP, you're standing by with him.
Yes, indeed. And Zach, you were pushing hard, to say the least, to close up to Butler towards the end. The gap was about 2.5, 3 seconds at one point, down to 1.3 seconds by the end. Talk us through those final stages. So you trying to trim down that gap?
Yeah, no, it was a tough battle there toward the end. You know, I was just trying to stay consistent, stay in the 49.6s, 49.7s, and just churn some laps and just stay focused. It was hard, you know. At the beginning, I didn't think I was going to close that gap as much as I did there at the end. You know, we were running about 2.8 seconds consistently there early on, and then all of a sudden I just turned it on and managed to bring it down. And I honestly thought I was gonna catch him there. It's a shame. I think, you know, a little bit of lap traffic kind of held me up there at the end. Yeah, no, it was a tough battle. I'm glad I got, you know, a couple of P2s tonight, and some major points in the championship ahead of Matt, my rival there. But you know, it's a good night. But really hoped I could squeak out a win.
And it seems even more so the past couple weeks, the pace has picked up more and more compared to even the previous seasons. For some comparisons in some of the road courses, your consistency seems to have been there from the get-go for much of the run. How has that progress been like throughout the campaign, knowing you've been picking up more and more points? And as you mentioned, you're hitting your goals on beating the 8 car, the defending champion from last year.
Yeah, no, it's you know, we started with this car, and I don't know why, it just fit in naturally with this car. You know, we started out and just managed to get podiums left and right, it seemed like. So I think I finally met my favorite car in iRacing with this F4 car, and you know, it's already created some pretty strong results. So looking forward to keep pushing and hopefully getting some more podiums, maybe a win this season, and just rack up some championship points. But yeah, Max and Will were definitely the ones to beat tonight, and unfortunately they beat me. So hopefully I could, you know, get them next time.
Absolutely. It's been an interesting run here tonight. Watkins Glen, though, up next real quickly. Thoughts on the Glen?
Love the Glen. You know, I think this layout, we don't have the chicane. So I think, you know, it's a pretty speedy track without it. And, yeah, it's interesting. Turn one down there is always good for some action there on lap one, and yeah, if you can make it through the boot there on lap one, you could usually be pretty well. So interested to see that how that goes. It's I think we got a couple weeks maybe until that race, so a week off, collect my thoughts, and yeah, keep churning. So excited for the Glens.
Thank you very much for the time once again, Zach.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
That's Zach Hudson. P2, both times out Josh.
And we continue the post-race show. Third place in both races tonight, Matthew Escajeda. And Matthew, I don't think the results that you were really looking for, especially when it comes to this championship. Now you were able to gain back 2 points on Max Butler, but with his win in race number 2, he just gains all that right back and a little bit more on you in the points battle. So going into the last 2 rounds, how are you feeling now running for your second championship, trying to be the only driver to win multiple of these championships in the Real Racers Virtual Club?
Well, I feel pretty good, except Max and Zach just had too much for me tonight. But Zach made no mistakes, basically, just tiny ones, and so did I, and I just had nothing. So those guys are pretty damn quick right now. So I'm just giving it everything. Just try to make no mistakes and stay on track.
14 points is the current unofficial gap, and with still 4 points paying rounds left, where's your confidence level at Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta? Do you think you can capitalize on a bit more of Max Butler's mistakes, maybe just outright beat him in speed when it comes to either one of those tracks? How are you feeling about both of them as the last 2 rounds of this campaign and the last 2 rounds that you have an opportunity to try and win the championship?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about Watkins Glen. I think I'm kind of a little bit of a mid-packer at Road Atlanta for some reason, but hopefully that'll change. But I'm really feeling the car right now, so I'm locked in. So I'll give it everything.
We look forward to seeing you fight for this championship. It's going to be a nail biter, I can bet. 14 points separate you and Max Butler. Go put in some practice over the off week. We'll see you coming back at Watkins Glen.
All right, thank you guys.
Matthew Escajeda, double third place finishes tonight, and now is in a deadlock with Max Butler at the top of the points championship. At the top of race number 1, though, it was Will Salisbury, 4th place in race number 2. JP, you're speaking with the number 7.
Yes, indeed. In race 1, it was a very sizzling quick race car, it seemed. When it comes to Mr. Salisbury, first we'll start with the positive from the race. One side of the car, you were blistering quick. How?
I have to ask myself that too, because all the practice sessions we ran, Max just had so much more speed on me tonight. And, I managed to pull it out in qualifying and just run consistent laps during the race. So that's what it was all about. Just getting the most out of the car in this track. It's a tough track, and to get right every single lap. And that's exactly what I had to do to run quick times. And that's what we did in the first race, and it worked out.
But the second race, that was with the invert, having to work through traffic, past 2 cars in the first lap, then disaster strikes. What happened throughout that sequence where you were pushing very hard, it seemed, from our viewpoint?
Yeah, I made some pretty bold moves on the start there. I knew that I could capitalize on the start, make a couple moves, and maybe catch some guys off guard, and went around the outside of Escajeda there. And, thankfully, we both gave each other just enough room, and I was able to sneak by. And coming up on Nick Leo battling for the lead with Max there. Going into the night, I knew that everyone was going to be really close, and we saw that throughout the whole night and through qualifying. And for me, it was just about being smart and maximizing points as much as possible. And I just got sitting there in third when Max was able to get by. I knew that I'd be able to get Nick in a lap or two, and I should have just been a little more patient, but. I went on the outside, tried to get a run going up the chicanes, and the transfer weight of the car, just at the angle that I took, I got on the power, and it just looped it right around. I wasn't really expecting that. So unfortunately, that kind of just ruined the race there, because no matter how quick you are, this place is so fast and everyone is so close in times that I just wasn't able to make up enough to get back up to the podium there. I know I was running as fast as I could. I was clicking off qualifying laps, 49 5s and 6s to try and catch these guys, but they just didn't make a mistake. And that's all it took tonight, was just one mistake to stop our run. But still happy to get one win from the night. Would have been nice to get two, but we definitely had the pace. But I'll take one and hopefully keep that championship lead going.
Summertime coming up with 2 rounds to go. Watkins Glen and Michelin Racing Road Atlanta. Quick thoughts on the upcoming races, 2 to go. First round.
Yeah, I love both of those tracks. Watkins Glen, my home track up in New York. So we were quick there last time when we showed up for the first race, battling with Steph and Anders and Nikita. Hopefully we can replicate another good finish there and cap off the season at Road Atlanta with a championship victory.
Should be fun to see how things play out because, as the saying says on a certain bio, not hardcore unless you live hardcore. You've been driving hardcore with the speed you've showcased. Congrats.
That's right. Live by that. Thanks, guys.
Will Salisbury, winner in race 1, top 5 in race 2.
And that'll conclude our post-race show here for round number 4 of Real Racers Virtual Club. The fun is not over. Round 5 at Watkins Glen. We take an off week for May 31st, and then going into June 1st next week, and then we're back on June 7th, and we'll round out the season on June 14th. So we have back-to-back rounds for round 5 and 6 at Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta. Make sure you're joining us same place, same time here on RaceSpotTV, 10 p.m. Eastern. How is the championship going to be decided? Will Salisbury and Max Butler were victorious tonight. Max Butler, 14 points above Matthew Escajeda in the championship. Will we have a 4th unique champion in 4 seasons, or will we see somebody go back to back? We make a pit stop at Watkins Glen before we crown a champion at Road Atlanta. Make sure you're joining us in 2 weeks' time when we continue season 4 of Real Racers Virtual Club. For Hugh Louise, Justin Prince, my name is Joshua Lee. We're saying good night from virtual Lime Rock Park.